Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you were doing well. What a wild week we've had this week. If you feel like you've had whiplash watching the market go back and forth, trust me, you are not alone. I know exactly how you feel. It almost feels like we have seen a market that is fundamentally at war with itself, trying to decide how it wants to behave. On Monday and Tuesday, the headlines were dominated by risk off and fear. Geopolitical strikes, oil striking to $82, $83 a barrel. And we saw that volatility index, or the VIX, jump over 10% yesterday and almost reach a score of 24. But today, on March 4th, the market shifted. This video, we're going to talk about what exactly came out overnight that I think helped cool down some of the pressure. It struck the exact tone we needed to see money rotate back into key sectors like the tech sector. So we'll talk about what that story was, what it means moving forward. And then we're going to dive in and take a look. How did the tech sector perform today? Why are the picks and shovels the biggest winner overall today? Why is money rotating back into those areas more than other areas within the tech sector? And of course, we'll take a look at Micron. Micron had a nice day today. We had recovered all of the losses on Tuesday, found a new support level, I believe, at 400, but we'll look at what the performance was throughout the day. And if there were any signs that could give us a bit of a sentiment or a bit of prediction of what we think it may perform tomorrow, that's what we'll discuss. And finally, we'll talk about the most important print of this week, the Broadcom earnings. What did it mean? What did they report? Will it be a bullish or a bearish sentiment for AI demand overall and for memory? We'll talk about all four of those areas in this video today. But if you haven't done it already, hit like, hit subscribe. I was looking at the diagnostics of the channel last night, and you guys may be surprised, but we have 75 to 80% of our viewers are new to this channel. That is amazing. And if you are new to this channel, welcome. If you find value in this content, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. I want you to be part of this community. I put out a video every day sharing insights and knowledge. So join the community. And if you're already in it, hit like. It helps the algorithms a ton, and I appreciate your support for the channel. Let's jump in and let's talk about what we saw today. So as I mentioned, there were reports last night that definitely stabilized the energy market. It released some of the Hormuz shock that was sending oil prices up. Those reports were that Tehran had made indirect contact with the U.S. to explore possible off-ramps from this current conflict. Now, that would be the exact tone and the level of uncertainty markets love to see. And that would help just ensure that we can get some consistency back into the market and see more rotation back into the tech sector and back into other sectors in the market. I think when you couple that news with the fact that we talked about it yesterday's video, that the U.S. was guaranteeing safe passage through the strait. They were going to provide insurance to those tankers that were moving through the Gulf. Then they were going to make sure there wasn't a permanent shutdown or a fear of a shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. That stabilized oil prices as well. And the inflation panic that we had seen had been weighing on stocks the last couple of days began to lift. Now, that's the sentiment I would say, and I think that's the sentiment that we saw across the market. But I do want to pull up a video and share with you an analyst that has a different opinion, because we need to listen to both sides. And what do we think ultimately the market is? The market removed of all volatility now, or could we expect to see more volatility this week? So let's jump over and just take a listen to what this analyst has to say. So let me pull that up for you guys right now.
Coming on and value your insight. Why are you skeptical of either military exports and or this potential idea for U.S. government backstops on insurance?
Yeah. Hi, Brian. So it's about timing. Look, ultimately, the United States is going to win and prevail militarily. But I've rarely seen such a timing mismatch. As you know, Brian, we saw this coming for months. We've mapped it all out. We did the deep dive. And one thing we were sure, and we talked to military experts, is that if it came to blows over the Strait of Hormuz, it would take weeks to suppress Iran's many layered, asymmetric drones, mines, missiles, fast attack boats, etc. And we will get the strait open, but it will take a lot longer than the market thinks.
So there you go. You heard it from the analyst. I wanted to share that perspective because I think it's a different sentiment that we've seen in the market. Obviously, he's a bit more bearish about this Strait of Hormuz effect and the shock effect being over. I think there's significant positive sentiment that both the U.S.'s insurance and the Iran reaching out to resolve the conflict, that the passage will be open. We won't see any increases or surges in oil prices, and that released the tension today. But are we over? Drop your comment below. Let me know. Do you think we'll have volatility the rest of the week? Do you think we'll continue to have some whiplash the rest of the week? Or do you think from here we'll continue to move in green? Let me know your thoughts. But I want to jump over now and take a look at the tech sector overall. How did it perform today? And so let's just take a look at how the sector performed. You can see on your screen down here below, up over 1.3%, significantly outpacing the S&P 500. But who performed the best overall in the sector? And as always, I mean, it's the semiconductor space, the largest weight. You can see the semiconductor industry was up call it 2%. I'll be bullish. Call it 2% growth. We also saw the computer hardware up significantly, the equipment suppliers up significantly. It was the picks and the shovels today. And let me show you why. We had NVIDIA, good performance again. Now, a couple days in a row where NVIDIA is starting to pile on. They're starting to get some positive momentum from that awesome print they had last week, validation in the market. Broadcom, this was leaning into their earnings. We'll talk more about that in the back end of this video. But then Micron, you could see 5.6% today, up over, closing at over 5.5%. It's a great day for them overall. We'll take a look at the semiconductors. This was a big story today. The picks and the shovels are massive winners today. And I think some of the reasons why, when you think about it, you look at Lam Research, call it 3% growth on the day. You kind of look at Applied Materials there, closing in on 2%. You see KLA over 2% growth for the day, almost 2.5%. You think about Applied Materials and Lam Research, like why are the picks and shovels winning right now? And they are selling the ability to stack. We know that the Lam Research reported that their advanced packaging systems grew by 28%, driven by the shift away from traditional chips towards a 3D stacked architecture. And in 2026, where we've hit a wall with chips that can't get really, it's hard to, you're working on getting them smaller, but we are at a space right now where the new gold rush for the picks and shovels is in the deposition. It is in the etch tools that allow for the vertical stacking. If you own the equipment, you are a massive player in controlling that bottleneck. And this is what we're seeing with the equipment suppliers right now, and why there's so much capital and so much money rotating to this sector. And I think we also need to just jump down and take a look at, in addition, we talked about Micron, but you can see the other stars of the day today were the memory companies. All four of them rebounded very nicely today. You could see Western Digital up 4%, Seagate up about 5% on the day, SanDisk closing in on 6%. I know some of them are still below where they were, particularly with SanDisk, but the sentiment is positive overall, guys. I would tell you that the biggest piece that we see with these players, both in the storage and in the NAND world, is their ability now to do long-term agreements. So we have seen this shift both in Western Digital, Seagate, and I listened to the conference yesterday, the Morgan Stanley conference. I'm going to post a link to that in this video. If you are a SanDisk investor and you want to hear the forward comments from their leadership team, I would do it. I wrote down a number of things that they talked about, which jumped out to me, but it was essentially, their philosophy, their grow the market philosophy, kind of the customer conviction. That's what I love to see. It was around, they're looking for long-term agreements now, but it's got to be with the right customers. It's got to match philosophically for them to make sure that they match up with the right customers. So they talked about this shift and moving in away from a quarter by quarter to more of a 2 to 3 year agreement overall. And they talked about their portfolio being the right portfolio right now for the right time. And then the last piece was the high bandwidth flash. They mentioned that as well. So I'll drop the link below. It's about a 30-minute listen. I just popped some headphones in if you're an investor in SanDisk or a potential investor in SanDisk, and just listen to the positivity, the optimistic sentiment that this leadership team has. I think that will give you a bullish view and a bullish kind of sentiment for the company and for the stock and what they're looking to do right now. But big players, those long-term agreements are going to be massive. Let's jump over and talk about Micron and its story throughout the day. You can see where we kind of down here, you may not be able to see it, but I'm trying to call out at the bottom. let me see if I can put a dot on it. There you go, right just there where we ended yesterday at 379, and immediately had a strong kind of gap up this morning. We saw that leading in the after hours in the pre-market. The stock was moving. You can see we hit a right out of the gate in the first 5 minutes, reached about 396 for the stock, and then had a nice steady upward climb throughout the rest of the morning. You know, up to over here where we reached the high of 407 for the day, had a little bit of pullback, but we stayed in this range and found this new range between 404, 405, and 400 throughout the day. The stock today closed, I think, just over 400. It closed at $401 a share, up 5.5%, $21 pickup on the day. It was a really strong day overall for Micron. I think we had high volume through the day. I mean, look at some of those volume spikes in the beginning. Look at that positive kind of green bullish volume that we saw at the beginning of the day on that first bar that jumped up. Look at the RSI underneath there, kind of continued kind of showing just a bullish response. It came back down into neutral, which is a great sign, but the volume today was about 38 million shares, which is significantly higher than the 30-day average we've seen, which has been in the low 30 millions, I think 31 or 32 million. So this heavy volume on an upward move indicates more institutional accumulation. And the volume rises alongside with price, especially after a sell-off, which we saw yesterday. It shows us that smart money viewed yesterday's dip as a buying opportunity. And there was a smoking gun that I want to jump out. I'm going to jump over here, and you guys are familiar with these block trades that I like to show. And this is the NASDAQ closing cross. We've talked about it a lot on the channel. It's the last activity right at closing bell. And you can see there was a closing cross today of, again, almost $1 billion for the stock, just over almost 2.5 million shares. This is a strong bullish sentiment. It happened exactly at close, massive amount. And so when you see a close to $1 billion print at the high of the day, the stock was trading at the high, and you could see it was up over almost 6%. If you look to the far right and you see that 0.56 plus, it's showing it was trading over 6% at this point from where it opened the day overall. This is a bullish stock sentiment to me, showing us that institutions weren't just bouncing the stock today. They were soaking it up in everywhere they can. They were buying the available shares, and they were willing to hold this price into the night. Usually when you see a cross that big, it might signify a top overall, but because Micron is holding on, if you look in the after hours right now as well, let me jump over, right over here. Hold on, guys. Oh no, I'm sorry. I had it up. I'm jumping all over the place. If you look in the after hours right now, you could see it's picking up another almost $5. We're closing in on about 406 a share. So when you see, like I mentioned, a big cross at a major move like that, institutions are they're feeling very comfortable having being long into the evening on Micron. We are seeing a massive transition of shares from weak hands to strong hands at the 400 level overall. So that is a great sign for Micron as we head into tomorrow. We have this strong kind of bullish sentiment at the 400 level floor. We talked about it yesterday. We had a massive closing cross yesterday that set the floor at 380. And I mentioned as long as we didn't break that 380, we had all of these shares, 4 million shares that were going to be there to support the stock in case it got into the green. It's what we saw today. So again, we've got almost 2.5 million shares right at that 400 level that'll be there to help the stock. If we open tomorrow and we don't fall below and we can stay above the 400 and the after hours look good right now, we've got a lot of sentiment and a lot of shares that are looking to back it and make sure it continues to stay in the positive overall. And actually, I want to jump back and just show you one other thing while I had that open, because there was a change today in addition. Look at that, over $5 a share now, so up over 406. We're going to keep our eye on that, but that's a great sign for the stock. But I want to pull down here because there was, despite of all of the craziness this week, look at this, we had a couple movements in price targets. Just on March 1st, you had Stifel move from original price target of 460. They moved to a 550. UBS set the new price target of 475, and the most bullish of bulls right now is Althea Capital has set a price target and their buy position of $6.50 a share for Micron. So strong sentiment, great performance today, picked up over 5.5%. Great sign with the closing cross at the end. It gives us a bullish sentiment heading into tomorrow. It gives us that 400 floor that we love, and we're seeing price targets that are being set higher for this stock. We know the 18th is coming up pretty quickly, guys. It's only 14 days away when they're going to have their print, and I think it's going to show the massive revenue that they've driven and just give more bullish demand for the stock. So I think when you take a look at everything we just said, and you see the RSI where it's sitting, that it's not oversold, it's not overbought, we have a good opportunity to continue to pile on tomorrow in a green kind of bullish format. So I'm looking to make sure we stay above the 400 level with Micron in the morning. If we can maintain that and grow over that, and even if we gap down slightly but regain the 400 level, it's a great sign. It was a great sign that we'll continue to have a positive sentiment, a bullish day tomorrow for Micron. If we break below 395 and we don't reclaim it, we've got those 2.5 million shares that were bought at the close. They're going to be sitting out there. There's going to be pressure on those. We may see a bit of a movement, a downward pressure on the stock, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm actually feeling pretty bullish about Micron tomorrow. Drop the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. And then let's talk about the other sentiment in today's market that drove kind of overall at the end of the day. So Broadcom had their earnings print. So we did see they beat earnings. So they had revenue of 19.31 billion. The estimates they were expecting were 19.1. It's actually their earnings were 29% higher this quarter compared to prior year. Really strong. The AI revenue was just under 8.5 billion. It was up over 100%, I think 106% year over year. And they are stating that their AI growth is accelerating. And they expect the AI semiconductor revenue to be almost 11 billion, but 10.7 billion in Q2. And the guidance they have for next quarter is 22 billion. So really strong beat, a really strong print overall for Broadcom. And what it means for us is, and you kind of take a look at Micron as a memory player and all the memory players, why is this so important? So their CEO, Hock Tan, noted that the demand for custom AI accelerators is accelerating, is what he said. And here's the secret. These custom accelerators require 3.5D packaging, which uses significantly more high performance and memory than standard chips. So when Broadcom beats and raises their guidance on AI chips, they are effectively telling the world and telling the market that they need to buy more memory, and they're going to need to buy more from companies like Micron. The earning print today for Broadcom turned the sentiment of cautiously optimistic for the memory sector to fundamentally confirmed. It provides that fundamental floor that prevents the tech sector from collapsing during macro volatility. So overall, guys, what was the lesson for me today? What was kind of the unifying story overall for today's performance? It continues to be that we need the story to separate signal from noise. That's what the market is going to be. I expect we may see a little more volatility across because of some of the concerns that we hear from the analysts around the strait not being completely closed, still at risk there. I think you're going to hear noise on the geopolitical tension. I think you're going to hear noise on the fluctuating oil prices. But we have to separate that, and we have to look at the true signal. Think about that NASDAQ closing cross of $1 billion and how that's setting the floor at 400 and all the support there if Micron can continue to jump out and gap up like it is doing in the after hours right now. Think about the 106% growth rate in the AI sector or the AI demand from Broadcom. These are true signals that are going to drive demand for the companies that we love in this sector. We love that are behind the AI demand. So separate that noise from the true signals. Find the signals, understand what they mean. Stay optimistic, but stay disciplined. That's my advice. We're in an environment where the physical trade is proving that it can withstand the storm. Don't let these macro headlines rattle you and shake you out of the fundamental super cycle. So stay disciplined, stay informed, stay optimistic, and I'll see you in the next videos. Take care, guys.